All right guys, welcome back to Millennium in Actual. Today we're going over level 3 emergency food survival kit. Now this one's a little bit more fun for some of you, especially if you have multiple people, maybe a family that you have to cook for, because we can no longer easily get by with one of these little backpacking stoves. So the first thing on our list is going to be a camping stove like so. Now, something like this is between $50 to $70. You can get single burners. This one is a double burner. It works really, really well. We've used this on multiple camping trips. We have 3 kids, there's 5 of us, and so it works really well. These guys work great. These pots, you can put cast iron on it. That's usually what we bring. But to get you by, the first thing on your list is you need to have the ability to cook food in a little bit of bulk. And to go along with that, the next thing on our list is going to be the propane fuel. Now, if you're watching this and it's wintertime, you might not be able to find these. If you see these, I highly recommend you always keep half a dozen or so on hand. They're only about $5 a piece, at least where I'm at, and if you have these, you really have fuel for a lot of different sources. We even have like a personal heater, a space heater that uses these. Now, I don't like to use them because it uses up a whole can in like 8 hours, but in an emergency, if you're freezing, it's a great way to stay warm. If you're trying to get by and cook food because the power is out, this is a great option. On average, one of these cans lasts about 2 to 3 days. We estimate probably 2 days to be safe if you're cooking 3 meals a day for multiple people. But this is a really good option right here. $5, $10 for a 2-pack, and $50 to $70 depending on the quality of stove burner that you want to get. So I really like this kind of version because these fold up like so. The connector comes out and it just goes inside of here. That goes down, this bolt's closed. And what's super cool is, if you can see this, it even has a carrying handle right there. So that's very handy. And it really just works out really well. So definitely recommend getting a camping stove like this Coleman or something similar to it. Now, my next pride and joy is going to be this Berkey water filter. This stainless steel filter is a beast. It comes with 2 filters, and these things will last about 5,000 to 6,000 gallons. Now, the cool thing is you can use 1 filter at a time and actually double the amount of gallons that you can filter. However, it will take longer to filter. So if it's a certain amount of gallons per minute that it filters, it's going to take twice as long. And so if you're going through a lot of water in the day, you're going to have to constantly fill it up, and you might not be able to keep up with your consumption. Especially in our case where we have multiple people in our family, we really have to use the 2 filters at a time in order for it to filter quick enough to keep up with how fast we're consuming the water. Now, you could pour muddy water in here and this thing will filter it. It'll come out spotless and clear. And the cool thing is, all you have to do is take the filters out, wipe them down, run them under water and clean them off, and you're good to go. So these things will last forever. I definitely recommend having an extra set of filters on hand, but even so, just with the filters it comes with itself, it'll probably last you between 1 to 3 up to 5 years depending on your rate of consumption. Now, this is a 2.5 gallon. They range from about $230 up to maybe $500 or $600 depending on the size. They have larger ones, I think up to 5 gallons, but this is a nice size. It fits on our counter, fits underneath the overhead cabinets, and so this is kind of a good size for us, and we try to make sure that we keep this topped off at all times in case we lose power and the water gets shut off. We want to make sure we have at least a couple of gallons on hand already filtered. Now, if things were to continue and we had to do like water catchment from rain or something like that, I feel very comfortable being able to just pour the rainwater into this filter and know that it's going to get purified. So if you don't have a Berkey water filter, definitely consider looking into getting one. I highly recommend them. I have only heard good things about them from people that I personally know who actually own them and have used them for years. Now, the next thing on our list is going to cost between $20 to $60 depending on what you get. But for the average kind of 4-person set, that's kind of the price range you're going to be looking at. Now, we got a kind of a cheap and simple set. It's plastic divider plates with some plastic bowls. It also came with cups and utensils like forks and spoons. I prefer stainless, but these work really well for our kids and they like it. They're fun, but stainless is a good alternative. They're durable, they're easy to clean and wash, and there's a lot of really cool options out there. So just look around, see what you like, and definitely consider investing in a plate, cup, bowl, utensil set for eating. Now, the next thing on our list is fire starters. Depending on how bad your situation can get, you can usually build a fire and cook over your fire. There's usually some sort of something around that you can burn, whether it's wood or maybe it's stuff that has now become useless depending on the scenario and the world that you currently live in. I read a story a couple years back, and I think it was around the Bosnia area, something like that. And basically the story was being told about how there was a complete breakdown in society. And basically what happened is people were having to burn their doors and anything wood that they could find because they chopped down all the trees, they burned them to stay warm and to cook food, and they started ripping doors off of houses and burning those just to stay warm and to cook. So depending on how bad things can get, hopefully that doesn't happen in our lifetime, but you want to be prepared. I highly recommend these Zip fire starters. They light like ridiculously easy. I've had some other fire starters in the past where, you know, it's maybe like this little cotton thing rolled up and it's got some kind of chemical in it, and I've struggled to get them lit and then for them to stay lit, especially in wet scenarios. Well, I literally used 2 of these on a camping trip just a couple weeks ago when it was just a complete downpour. Everything was just soaked. I had nothing. I saved pine needles the night before. The second night, everything was just soaked, and those things saved my life. They light so easily. And you can get a pack of about 12 for only about 13 bucks. So about $1 a piece, worth their weight in gold, super lightweight. So whether it's for backpacking or for emergency, totally, totally worth it. Next, I would definitely recommend having some sort of Flint and Steel tool. 10 bucks maybe. You can get some nice ones, you can get some cheap ones, but these guys I've experimented with and I've been able to, you know, light up wads of paper. The Zip fire starters, they work really well for getting sparks in a small area and getting a fire started even in the worst conditions. So I definitely recommend some sort of Flint and Steel setup like so. They're pretty cheap and they can save you, can get thousands and thousands of strikes out of them. So something like this is going to get you maximum effectiveness for the amount of space that it takes up compared to maybe a match or lighter alternative. Now with that being said, I do recommend getting some lighters. A cheap 5-pack can cost as little as $5, and these things, you probably know, last forever. They don't take up a lot of space, and if you're really, you know, trying to be limited on space, you can even get miniature ones that maybe are, you know, 65% of the size. Super light, super small, and they're really easy to take with you on backpacking trips. But I definitely recommend just have some of these. It's worth the $5 to keep some lighters on hand and make sure you have that ability to easily start a fire. All right, so now we're gonna get into some more of the fun stuff, and next on the list is going to be an e-tool. Now, e-tool is the military term for entrenchment tool, but really what we're looking for is any kind of folding shovel. And I've used this so much for messing around with fires, for digging holes in pits, and basically what you have is you have this shovel that takes up this much space, screws into the handle like so. I think I got this one for even cheaper, like 10 bucks or less, because it's a little bit smaller. A regular e-tool, there's kind of like this small size, like a medium size, and then full size. I'd recommend something like a medium size just for space wise, but you can make a shovel out of it like so. So you can make your shovel. Obviously, you can make a pick if you want. So something like this. I really need to clean this after the last rain on the last camping trip. So you have your pick, or you can have both the shovel and the pick out at the same time, all right? Or if you fold this down, you basically get right here a flat side, and you can use this as a hammer or something like that if you're just knocking in some stakes or something like that into for your tent. So I definitely recommend something like this. It's very small, very compact. It doesn't weigh too much. It's a little bit heavy. This is the biggest I would take for backpacking, but it fits nicely, and you know, it's really only about the size of your hand. So this is a really good tool. Definitely look into something like that. There's other options out there, some really cool ones that I haven't quite invested in yet, but I really want to soon. But definitely check those out. Highly recommend it. It's good for all sorts of tasks. All right, now the next thing on my list is some sort of axe or hatchet. If you need to split firewood, you need to have a hatchet because you're gonna have to make tinder and kindling. And that can be really difficult with a knife or an e-tool. So something like this can be really helpful. This has worked okay, but what I found is because it has the short edge, not super long. It makes it kind of hard. It's good for penetration, but it doesn't make it good for splitting wood necessarily. There's other options where maybe it's an axe with a multi-tool setup, and those can work really well. So definitely look around and play around with some setups and see what works best for you. Something like that might cost around $20 to $30 depending on the quality and the utility of the axe. Now, we're in a survival situation and we might be eating rice and beans for days, weeks, maybe months on end. In this case, whether we're getting the amount of calories we need or not, there's only so much that rice and beans can deliver to you. Now, it does provide a complete protein source, and that's good, so you get all of your amino acids. However, the next thing on my list I would recommend is a multivitamin. Keep some multivitamins on hand. Make sure you have a couple months supply. In an emergency situation, you can probably get away with half of a dose and extend that, double the duration that those multivitamins will last you. But I definitely recommend having those nutrients because your body can't effectively convert food into usable energy without nutrients, and you also want to make sure you don't get malnutrition. There's no point in staying alive if your body's just going to be breaking down and degrading over time. You really want to make sure that if you have the amount of food allotted and the time allotted that you think you need to cover an emergency situation, that you also have the amount of multivitamins that you need to carry you through that time as well. Now, something like this might cost a little bit more. You're looking at maybe $30 to $50 depending on which supplement you get. So definitely look at the amount of servings. Usually it's about 30 per bottle, and then count out the amount of months that you want to have it sustain you, and then just get that amount of bottles for your kit. All right, the last thing on our list, and this is kind of just for fun, and that's survival bars, right? So maybe until you can get your stove working or whatever the case is, your kids are running around, I'm hungry. I definitely recommend having something like these on hand. Now, these are literally emergency food bars. It's a bunch of ingredients put together. This one's a cool non-GMO and nut-free option, and this is an apple cinnamon option. This one tastes more like a graham cracker, and then this one is more like a shortbread cookie, apple cinnamon flavor. Both are very good. There is one benefit to this guy, and that is that this comes in individually packed 200 calorie bars, and they're wrapped individually, so when you open this package, these won't spoil as fast, or maybe not for a while. This one is one big bar, and I've already eaten some because I was doing some fun taste tests. You can see that in a different video. Try it out. Let me know how it tastes.
Yummy. Yummy.
You haven't even tasted it yet.
Yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yum, yum,
What does it taste like?
That's the regular cookie.
Yeah. Have you ever had this before?
No. No.
This is your first time, right?
Right.
Okay. What if there was no more food left at the grocery store? Would you eat that maybe for like a day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, do you have lots of fun?
I do.
Ooh. And Mommy.
Yep. Mommy's gonna try it too. Do you want her to try it?
Yeah.
Do you think she'll like it?
Yeah.
Would you rather have this or rice and beans?
This.
This? Or maybe rice and beans first and then this is a snack?
This first.
This first? Alright, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, I don't like it at all, and 10 being, it's really good. How would you rate this? 10 is, you really like it.
10.
5 is, it's okay. 1 is, it's gross.
10.
10?
10.
You really like it? But this is one big 2,400 calorie bar. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting something like this unless it's just you, because once you open this, you have to consume it. Or I wouldn't recommend getting this unless you want to get a bunch of these, where one package will last multiple people for one day, right? So that way it gets consumed as soon as it gets open. So this one was a little bit cheaper, maybe by $1 or $2. Versus this, they were both, I want to say, under $15, so not too bad. But in an emergency situation, it's super good to have something like this on hand that you can just quickly open, and it's loaded with calories, 200 calories. And then something like this had 6 400 calorie bars. So these are some options that can help you complete your emergency food survival kit. So guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that you were able to figure out a budget, get to see some stuff that I've used personally, what I like, and that hopefully you can find something that works for you and that you like as well. I hope this was able to easily break down a list for you so you can just go out and get what you need depending on your budget. and I hope that this helps you take care of you and your family in an emergency situation. In my full course, I cover food and water, but in way more detail. And not only that, I also cover other topics like communications, defense, and medical. And in the near future, my goal is to have hundreds of these videos just for you so that you can quickly learn and put all this stuff into practice. All of these things I know are topics that anyone can benefit from, and I hope to see you there.